For those that are just joining us, we'll be starting right at 5:35. We are currently about 3 minutes away, so just a little bit more time before we get started. This meeting is also being recorded. We will have this on our website tomorrow. So recording of this will be on our website, and that link for the website is in the chat if anybody wants to go and look at that website now. It's there for you. All right, everyone, thank you for waiting for us. So we are getting ready to get started. So we are here to talk about the proposed major service changes for Route 5 and Route 22. With us today is Michael Oglesby. He is the general manager for Sun Tran, Sundance, Sunlink, and he'll be going through this presentation with us today. The presentation itself is only about 5 to 10 minutes, so we ask that you please hold your questions till the end. You can put your questions in the chat at any time. We have some other staff here from Sun Tran to help answer some questions, but at the end, we'll have a good amount of time left for a question and answer portion. All right, so Michael, go ahead and take it away.
Fantastic. First of all, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're
okay.
Good.
That's great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Let's get started on the presentation for the proposed major service changes for routes 5 and 22. So why are we making changes? The Department of Transportation and Mobility, DTM, and Sun Tran were asked to reduce our operational budget by reviewing the 5 lowest performing routes. Those 5 lowest performing routes in numerical order are shown here, which are Route 5, Pima, West Speedway, Route 15, Campbell, Route 21, West Congress and Silverbell, Route 22, El Rio and West Speedway, and Route 61, La Cholla. Next slide, please. Well, so the Route 5 provides the greatest annual cost savings of the 5 routes that we just showed. However, if the route was eliminated, it created an area which was no longer covered on West Speedway. Therefore, we had to modify Route 22 so we could ensure that the Sun Tran system area would still be covered. So with the elimination of Route 5, it would decrease the transit operating expenses by $1.7 million. The additional changes to cover those changes we talked about to Route 22 ensure that West Speedway is still covered, increasing the cost by $600,000. So the total savings is $1.1 million, and we were able to do it by adding the coverage that we lost. This slide illustrates the current Sun Tran system. Highlighted are routes 4, Speedway and Cobb, 5 Pima and West Speedway, and 9 Grant and Route 22 El Rio and West Speedway. Let's go to the next one. Actually, did I go over that? Well, slide 7. So the proposed changes shown here, the red dotted line indicates the elimination of Route 5, as well as the elimination of a portion of Route 22 that goes into El Rio neighborhood loop. Additionally, the extension of Route 22 continuing to Pima College and West Campus. If the changes are approved by the mayor and city council, we show the updated Sun Tran system with Route 5 no longer being shown. Routes 4 and 9 travel across the city, and Route 22 operates to and from downtown Ronstadt Transit Center to PCC West. So today, we're just beginning our meeting series. We'll have a few more in the next 2 weeks. And this recording of this virtual meeting will be on the Sun Tran website under About Us, Grants, and Project tab. Now it's time. Let's hear from you. Please know that we are interested in all comments, positive, negative, and neutral. Some say the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can submit comments online at suntran.com. The Sun Tran website under the About Us, Grants, and Projects tab also has an online form for feedback and inquiries. All comments received from the meeting online and through customer service will be put in a report for the mayor and council to make an informed decision. A public hearing is tentatively scheduled for August 6th, 2025 at the mayor and council regular meeting. If approved, the changes to both Route 5 and 22 could be implemented this November. So with that being said, thank you for your attention and attending this meeting, and let's get started if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, if you guys want to do a little hand raise, or if anybody just wants to shout out a question, feel free. It's a quiet group.
There's a question in the chat and it says, what defines lowest performing routes, please?
Okay, so was that Davida? Davida, you want to tag team on this one, or?
I was gonna let you start.
Well, lowest performing routes, actually, it's based on the amount of riders that we get per hour. And realistically, when you look at the bottom 3, right, the 15, the 21, and the 61, those are very low performers per day.
Yeah, so we looked at all of our routes, every route, all 29. We look at passengers per hour, passengers per mile, average daily ridership. We look at cost, and then we rank them in order, and that's the 5 lowest performing routes.
To follow up on that question, wouldn't longer routes typically have different segments of the population that used it at different times?
And definitely, but that's why we use passenger per hour and passenger per mile. It's a way to normalize the route. So it doesn't matter if the route is 5 miles or 15 miles, because we're doing it by this sort of normalization. We can compare routes to each other back and forth across the system. For example, Route 18 has approximately 70 passengers per hour during the week. But Route 4, which has a greater ridership, has about 30 passengers per hour. So it's a way to also look at our ridership and then say, how can we compare them side by side? Because depending on the length or where it's going, the number of people that are riding changes considerably.
Thank you, Davida. And then another question in the chat, just so we can try to keep going by the questions being asked. They asked to see the slides. They'd like to see the current and proposed slides again. So I'll go back. Oops. So this is the current routes, if you want to go through those. And then these slides will also be available online tomorrow, just so. Okay, so Sean, did you have a particular question about this slide?
I see a few hands raised.
Yeah, that's Sean. Go ahead if you want to unmute yourself. We have that slide up.
Okay, thank you. I did notice a couple people in the chat. Let me go. Asking regarding a route along that Pima Road. I have a couple of sons that go to University of Arizona, and one of the reasons why they moved further out is because it's so expensive to live by the university. So they saw that the Route 5 could take them a little bit further from the university to a more affordable area so that they would have ease to access. And I do see that, you know, they could walk to another route, but part of the reason why they wanted to live along this 5 route was they wouldn't have to walk in the heat, sometimes 100-degree weather for a mile in the heat. So it's kind of for these students, and there's multiple people living there, it's kind of an inconvenience. And I think there should be some consideration that in the future, this might actually lead to some students maybe not even showing up to classes, and long term, the city of Tucson losing some funds indirectly by not catering to some of these University of Arizona students who are living outside of the school district because it's more affordable, but now they're not going to have that option. I think that should be a consideration. I know you're looking at it being a low, I guess, a poorly used route, but you also have to look at who it's providing service to. And the University of Arizona students are providing a lot of income for the city of Tucson overall. I just think another thing is, somebody had mentioned it only goes till after 7. But another thing you might want to even consider is possibly charging a low fee to make up for some of the deficit. I'm sure some students would be willing to pay a monthly fee of, you know, $5, $20, $35 just so that they can get to school, easily, not walking in heat, and safely too, because walking down to Pima, some of the areas, you know, it's a little bit sketchy, just to be honest, but that's my little, I guess, input. Yes.
So
Hey, Sean.
first, I think somebody had the volume turned up. But first of all, those are great points. And that's the reason why we're having these meetings. I'm going to have more. We're actually documenting these. Again, I had mentioned that one thing we're going to do is we're going to be putting comments in the report. I'm going to guess that a lot of them are going to be repetitive. And if so, those will go in the report. But again, your comments are not falling on deaf ears. That's why we're doing this. We need to know how it affects you, and we need to convey that to the right folks. So,
well, it'll affect the city of Tucson if university students can't attend anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So just again, going through the chat, let me get these people real quick answered. Donna Darnell, you had a question about adding fees for the city of Tucson and the Pima County resident. Did you want to expand on that, Donna?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My kids and I have ridden the bus in the past before COVID, and there used to be a fee, and part of it was based on if you were a city resident or not. Then it was also based on your income amount. So I would much rather for myself pay a small fee or basing on your income, a bit bigger fee to have the better service. And also, my kids sometimes will ride Sun Van because they're disabled. The free ridership for that makes it almost impossible to use. Even if we were charging our elderly disabled to take the Sun Van $1 a trip, it would reduce just people taking it all the time. And that would be dollar for low income, whatever the equivalent would be for the not poverty level folks. But one of our bigger concerns is that we lived on, I believe it was 19 that was just modified in February. You could not go to any classes at Pima East and get home because the bus would stop running. The bus route that goes over to Udall Park, it doesn't even go as far east as the city limits because they've reduced some of the routes. There's still a really nice bus stop at Pimo Decimal that they just stopped utilizing. I know it's an unsafe spot to stop, but there's not even services for everybody on the route. Another thing that I today sent a message on is that the Section 8, I'm a disabled vet and rely on that, has required people to move, and the housing rents are based on your zip code. So I've had to move out beyond Udall because we could not find something reasonably priced within the standard bus rates. So there's multiple issues and questions.
Points taken. Trust me, we're writing these down.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna. So let's go to Avanish. The question was, is the option binary, keep or axe, or is there a middle ground for a number of hours of operation since Route 5 only operates till 7 p.m.?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for kind of having this forum. This really helps us express our thoughts. So I'm speaking more from a student standpoint. So what we have, or at least what I've seen around me, is that students tend to use these services on the Speedway route. And like just from a connection standpoint, so I come from Oracle side. And what I find is that the intersection between intersection between Speedway and Main, that's a point where a lot of the students, and again, a lot of the international students, they sort of end up at that point to transit over towards the university. The frequency of the 4 and the 5, a lot of students depend on how they play nicely with one another, so that if you miss one of them, you don't have to wait for the other one. And especially during the summer, it becomes very much a lifesaver in that case. For the stretch for the university, I see both the 4 and the 5 being used to a high frequency. Now, I can understand further down the line, your data might point otherwise. But I have definitely seen that until the university and slightly past the university, both of the buses get, in my opinion and my experience as a rider, get sufficient traffic. Now, after 7 p.m., it dies down, and I understand that, but I just wanted to express my perspective as a frequent traveler, and I travel pretty much every day back and forth.
Thank you, Avnish, and we appreciate your comments on that. And we'll definitely take that down. The other thing I would like to encourage people, I realize we're taking comments from what you are saying today, but if you would like to make sure that your story is in our packet to the mayor and council, feel free to email us or fill out the form online. In addition to any comments that you leave here, we want to make sure everybody's voice is included in that packet for mayor and council.
And again, for those who may have just tuned in, the Sun Tran website, if you go to our website, under About Us, Grants and Projects tab, there'll be an online form for feedback and inquiries.
Yes, thank you. All right, next we have Ben Sotero. So he asked, why is there no consideration for any riders living along Pima? Ben, I know you have your hand up too, so if you want to unmute and expand.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you also for holding this meeting. I'm glad that y'all are collecting feedback about this because it's very important. I actually remember that not long ago, probably last year or the year before that, we had this kind of similar conversation when there was talk of cutting other routes, one that I specifically use a lot, and I'm glad that ended up not happening. And since that didn't happen, there's actually been more ridership on that route. I bring that up because it feels like we're having the same conversation again. And I know that I had already asked in the chat, why are there no considerations for anyone living basically along Pima? You know, you're basically talking about and one of the things I was afraid of when I first looked at what little information there was about this, you're basically only thinking about consolidation of two routes along West Speedway. But meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of people or riders from basically Tucson Boulevard all the way east to the Udall Center that also depend on the Route 5. I used to depend on the Route 5 a lot myself when I was a university student and lived along Pima and Belvedere. And that was definitely the best route for me when I could not ride my bike to and from school. I noted in the comments about other people mentioning how between the heat and also accessibility factors, it's not going to be easy for them to just, take a trot down to Speedway to make up for that. And actually eliminating the 5 route altogether makes it very hard for people to find the next nearest route that will take them to downtown, because if you're not living close enough to Speedway as an alternative, your next routes to that might end up being like the 9 that only goes, east-west on Grant to the PCC West, and then I believe it goes to Udall as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, long story short, I just see the factors of, and somebody else pointed out in the comments too, and I think this is very important to hear, just because there's lower ridership on basically the small neighborhood routes doesn't mean that it's not needed. It's very much needed, because for the few people that get on the bus, along those stops, that's kind of their only line into town anywhere. And so, speaking as one who used to ride the 5 more frequently years before when I was a university student, and also noting that once again, we're back to having this conversation about, you're looking at numbers and you're looking at cost. But, one of the things I'm grateful for about this meeting is, we need to put faces to the numbers. We need to know, like, why there's a need. And honestly, I feel like eliminating Route 5 is not a solution. I feel like if you need to cut off the part where it goes past downtown campus, if you need to cut off that part, or just basically where you're going to consolidate it with the Route 22, that's one thing. But eliminating it altogether is, I don't see that working very well. And as far as funding goes, considering the fact that the 5 does travel at least to, well, I think it goes to PCC West for right now.
It does.
Okay, so considering the 5 does go to PCC West, it also makes a pit stop right there at downtown campus. It also passes by the central area where you get off to go to U of A. So, and it travels down Tucson Boulevard, which at one point is close enough that it might catch some traffic from the TUSD, specifically Tucson High School students. Any of them, if they miss the 3 or happen to live along Pima and can walk up to Speedway to catch the 5 home. And so I'm thinking about, has there actually been any talks with the educational institute partners? Because rather than cutting services that will actually end up costing more in the long run, no matter how much money you save up front at first, it would, I think instead of charging the students, we need to charge the actual institutions to sponsor Sun Tran. Like, and last I read, either it was Arizona Luminaria or there was a lot of outreach when there was talk of possibly fairs being coming back on. But last I had read, all three institutions, TUSD, U of A, and PIMA, were open to coming to the table to discuss options. So, you know, I'm wondering if that actually has been taken in initiative yet, because that might solve a lot of the funding issue. I understand that that's really what this is about, but cutting services from people who need it, or even the suggestion of any one of them, from students to any other passengers, paying a fee when all of us are struggling to make ends meet, like that's just, it's not reasonable at this point. So
Thank
I just like you to consider that.
Thank you, Ben.
Mhm.
Yeah, will do. Let me just comment on that. So, point taken. You know, need versus cost savings is always sensitive, right? So cost savings, and look, the city trying to find cost savings versus what the effect of that cost savings will be is the reason why we're having these meetings. So everything that you're saying is fantastic, because it falls in with what we've listed as some potential unintended consequences, but we need to hear from you. You said a whole bunch of other stuff that I won't address. We'll just put it all together and send it off. But again, we agree, understand your position.
Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and just get this one question from Kai that's here, and then we'll go to Alexandra Velgos, because I know they've been waiting a little bit with their hand raised. So Kai asked if there was any option to shorten Route 5 so that it runs from Speedway and Tucson to Pima and Tanque Verde. So that kind of was along Ben's idea as well, if it could be shortened, so it doesn't go all the way to the west side. I don't know if you want to speak on that, Davida.
We have talked about it. It wasn't part of the recommendation that was moved forward, but we will keep that in mind, and maybe we can, we will definitely add it to the comments and give that a chance to be heard. Again, all of your comments are very important, and we want to make sure that we capture them and include them in our packet to mayor and council. The public hearing meeting for this topic is anticipated to be August 6th, but we do have other meetings coming up with mayor and council that you may be interested in, but specifically about this project. That public hearing is on August 6th.
Thank you, Davida. Alexander, go ahead and unmute, and you can have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm a teacher at Catalina High School, which is obviously right smack dab in the middle of Route 5. And so I'm really concerned about the impact that it will have on our students. If Route 5, specifically the Pima section, were to be eliminated. A really large percentage of our students take Route 5 every day to and from school, as their main form of transportation to school. Our students are some of the most disadvantaged students in the city. We have about a third of our students who are refugees, immigrants, or other form of international students. Many students we have are living in group homes or unstable housing situations. 100% of our students are eligible for free lunch at the school. These are the students who really have very few options. And so taking away their truly main form of transportation to and from school, it's so worrying to me as to what it could do to their educational opportunities. Their abilities to graduate, their abilities to pursue careers, to pursue higher education. You know, many of my students have to have after school jobs. The potential of having to walk a half mile from Catalina to another bus route is truly a lost opportunity for them to earn money, right? You know, if you're under 18, you can't work until 2 a.m. or something like that. You have fairly limited hours in which you are able to work. They can't leave school earlier, so that added transportation time is really cutting into their ability to help themselves and their families. And so I certainly appreciate that there are financial restrictions that we live under. I work in Tucson Unified School District. They have their own financial restrictions that are becoming apparent. But I really hope that you know, ultimately it's the city council that will make this decision. I really hope that they're not just considering the raw ridership numbers, but really thinking about who those people are that use that route and what an impact this will have on them. As we see them losing other means of support through cuts by the federal government, cuts by the state government. It really worries me what could happen to these students if it becomes even more difficult for them to go to school. So there's no real question there. It's just putting forward my thoughts. So I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Alexander. We appreciate your comments.
Absolutely. If I could follow up on that, I'd like to encourage you to fill out a form to express really how you feel. I mean, we're going to put something together, but the passion, the need has to come out from the people who are affected. And clearly, if I could just lift what you said and put it on a piece of paper, and every time somebody touches it, you spoke, I think that would speak volumes. So I'd appreciate it if you really put something together for us.
Yeah, I filled out the comment form on your website, and I copied an email to the city council members with the same
Thank you.
information. So thank you very much.
Thank you. April, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself? April?
Hi, thank you. I ride Route 5 every day to get to school. I am a homeowner. I bought my house on the west side of the freeway, believing that there would be connectivity from the west side of the freeway to the rest of town. And I've looked at the Sun Tran route map, and there is a distinct lack of east-west connectivity in the city of Tucson overall. I think there are 3, possibly 4 routes that go all the way from the west side of the freeway to the east side of town without having an onerous transit stop at a transit center that can add 15, 20, 30, potentially an hour or an hour and a half to my ride if it's on the weekend. I will not take the bus anymore. If I have to go to a transit stop, I would rather drive. My renters, who are helping me pay off this mortgage, do not have cars, and they cannot make that choice. So they will have to do extra long transit to get anywhere where they want to go. One of them is a U of A student like myself, and rented from me thinking that they could get across the freeway easily using this bus to the U of A. If that changes, I don't know if I'm going to have to find another person to rent from me. I don't know who it's going to be, because the value of living in this area that's not too far away from U of A and downtown and Pima downtown with connectivity to central Tucson, that value is going to go down if you have to do an extra 20 minutes to get anywhere you're going. So I find that extremely disturbing. I think we need to be adding to the connectivity between the east and west instead of continuing to shutter off the west side that like has been historically done in the city of Tucson. You know, we built this giant freeway right through downtown, shunting off the west side and most of the Hispanic neighborhoods over here, and creating a giant barrier in the city historically. and these bus routes that span east and west that allow people to go from the west side of the freeway all the way to Udall through neighborhoods that are disadvantaged. I'm looking at the Tucson Equity Data Strategy online right now, and you're proposing taking away service from El Rio neighborhood if you adjust the Route 22. That neighborhood is in the 80th percentile in the Tucson Equity Priority Index, which means, according to the city of Tucson, compared to other census tracts in the city, it has a very high level of social vulnerability. So taking away transit service from El Rio neighborhood and Barrio Hollywood, where I am, is in the 97th percentile. That is extremely high social vulnerability. And you're proposing, or the proposition is, to remove connectivity from these extremely disadvantaged neighborhoods that have historically been disinvested on the west side and create further barriers for the opportunities that exist further in town, for the opportunities that exist with education like Pima Community, with education like the University of Arizona, with the shopping and all of the other things that exist in the rest of the city of Tucson. Like, why should we be isolated over here? Why would you take away our ability to get to the rest of the city with Route 5? And I'm not saying like the west part of Route 5 is more important. Clearly, Pima service is extremely important. The connectivity all up and down east-west in the city of Tucson that Route 5 provides is extremely important to so many different people. Yeah, and I'm like looking at the equity map again. Around Alvernon, we have more high equity need, high social vulnerability scores. The 82nd percentile over at Alvernon. Like, this route serves some of the people who most need it in town, and it will be devastating to very many people. 2 hospitals are served close to this route. Yeah, we should not be having a conversation in the city of Tucson right now about reducing transit. We should not be throwing parts of the route under the bus, and we should not be putting fares back on the table. We need to be expanding transit, keeping it free, so more people use it, so fewer people have to rely on cars, and so transit itself can just be more accessible for the type of city that we want to build in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, April. Alice, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself? Thank you for waiting. I know you've been waiting for a while to talk.
Oh, yes. Thank you for taking my comments. I live close to Pima and on the Pima route, close to Tucson Boulevard. I have caregivers that come to my house to take care of my husband, and they take the bus. And they really do need the bus because they're not very well paid. I mean, I pay them and the agency, but their net is not that much. The other thing I think that is really, really critical is the services provided by Grace St. Paul's Church, which is on this route that one, just off of Tucson Boulevard by Adams. And that the homeless population, the underserved population that actually get food there, they have 3 times a week. They can get showers, they can get food, and then they can get services there, but they also have to clear out. And the rules of the church are that they need to get out of there Monday, Wednesday, Friday by about 2 o'clock. And so the bus is the way they do it. And a lot of them know the bus routes. And this is a very, very important thing for us neighbors to have the unhoused population be able to get across the city of Tucson so that they're not camping out in my neighborhood. I'm sorry, that's a NIMBY statement, but they do camp out here and it's not a good situation. So anyway, but my caregivers definitely need to have the bus. So thank you for taking my comments.
Thank you, Alice. Okay, well, I think we've kind of reiterated a lot that all the comments are really important for us, and we'd really appreciate for as many of you as you can to please make sure to submit a form and get those comments so that we can put it in part of our packet that goes to the mayor and council in August. Anything else you'd like to say, Mikkel?
No, I was writing so much, I'm getting carpal
There's a
tunnel over
lot.
here. No, first of all, no, this is exciting. A lot of people don't realize, as staff, we really want to hear this, right? We have some opinions ourselves as far as what the unintended consequences are. I can assure you that when we were requested to do this, we didn't do it and say, oh, this is a fantastic. We wrote all of the unintended consequences down, some that you've mentioned, but a lot that you haven't, which is really great for us to pass the information along. So again, I look forward to more of these. I think it's important that the people who ride the system should be heard. We are putting your comments out in front. There are a lot of comments about reducing. I mean, I could go on and on with my notes, but there's a couple in here, especially when it comes to, well, why didn't you do half of the route, right? Why didn't you reduce the 5? And really that could come down to a financial situation. We have $1 million savings. Is there another way to find that savings? I mean, these are all great comments that should they go to where they need to go, where people really have this conversation at a higher level, we can assess and take a look at those. We've done some of that already. That's how we ended up getting to the 5. But again, this input is incredible. Oh, I see someone else. That's good.
Give me a second, Michael. I just want to share real quick because we've had some people asking where things are on the website. So I just want to take a quick moment to share the website with you guys, just so we make sure everybody knows where everything's at. So we should be looking at the suntran.com screen right now. If you scroll down immediately on the what's happening, it's already up here. And if you scroll down here where it says we value your feedback, this form here allows you to put in your name, your emails, your comments, whatever you want here. It's right here. You can drop in a letter if you want to fill something out and put it in. So just know that that's where the feedback is. This page too has all of our meetings, the Zoom links, and we'll also put up the recording of this meeting here as well. So just know that this page on the website is being updated. You can put your feedback here. You can send it to your students or anybody you want to also put in their feedback. And again, just go to suntran.com. It's on the main page right here for everybody. Okay, thank you. April, did you have something else you want to share?
I had a question. So like, I understand that neither of you will be providing any recommendations specifically by yourselves to mayor and council who will be voting upon this in a public hearing on August 6th, based on what's in this meeting. Who will put together the report and present their recommendations based on all of this public participation feedback? Who is in charge of presenting this information to mayor and council?
So the person who will be presenting the information is Sam Credio. He's our director of transportation and mobility for the city of Tucson. However, all the comments and information about the meetings, we will actually compile that. We won't be making a recommendation of to do it or not to do it. What we'll be doing is saying, this is the information that we received from the community. And we'll be giving that to mayor and council as part of their information for them to make a decision one way or another. We're tasked to stay as neutral as possible when we write these reports and not provide a recommendation one way or another. The recommendation was for us to take this to the public and get comments from them. And that's what we are doing right now. And we'll make sure that every comment we receive is included in the input report that goes to the council.
Will Sam Credio be attending any of these meetings?
I don't know, but I would expect that he knows what's going on, and we report back to him on all the information that we've gathered as well.
Right. So let me chime in on that. Thank you, Davida. One of the great things about us being the transit professionals is we have the ability to gather the information and also beyond that, strengthen it by having the conversation with the Department of Transportation and Mobility. That's why they have us here. Is it quite possible that he may pop on? Maybe. But I can assure you that there are enough people on his staff on this call right now that he'll know everything that's going on.
Thank you, Michael. Ben, do you want to go ahead and unmute and?
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I can understand why that question was asked because there is concern about, I'm sure, like if you're not going to provide a recommendation because you need to stay neutral. I personally would be concerned about, you know, presenting things neutrally and wondering if that's going to be enough to appeal to mayor and city council about, you know, please don't make make these changes because of how consequential it'll be. Do you feel that the way that you'll be able to provide the feedback to them through what's his name that's going to be presenting it?
Yeah,
Sam
Sam.
Creo.
So-
Creo.
I would be happy to answer that. And I'm going to tell you from some of the emails I've seen already, this is why we're asking you to put your story into our comments and on the website. The personal stories that I have received today are very powerful. And I believe that, you know, we can make recommendations. We can provide mayor and council with our best recommendations as professionals, but your personal stories, your comments have an impact that is sometimes not, people don't realize how strong their individual stories and their comments are. And that's why we are encouraging everybody who can to provide their comments and make sure that your voice is heard. And I really believe that how you say it and how you put it sometimes is stronger than any staff report that I write. And I see a question online, and also just to let you know, Sean, yes, this video will be shared and it will be posted on our website. So anybody can hear everything that we're talking about. This is as much a public meeting as any other public meeting we're doing. And those comments, I've been trying to capture as many as I can. So please let your neighbors know, let your community know, and I truly appreciate all of you being active and making sure that we have a good system.
Right. If I could jump in there, Davida, that's those are some fantastic comments. Also, really, our goal is to make sure when this is said and done, we don't have anybody that says, well, I didn't have an opportunity to give my opinion or speak. So that's why we're drilling to you. There are various options and opportunities. And of course, there are other meetings outside of ours that you can attend and speak to too. So when Davida was talking about the neutral position, it's a neutral position as far as the actual presentation of potential cuts that were requested. That information is the neutral part. As far as input, it's 100% you. So we'll be passing on exactly what you are saying. So yes, you will be properly represented. And if we are asked the tough questions, we will respond with the information that you've provided.
Oh, okay.
Ben,
Thank
did
you
you
for
have?
that. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just going to ask if you had something else to share.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to follow up. I'm one of those where I want to be able to completely understand. So to follow up with that, with y'all recommending that not only our participation in the meeting and submitting feedback here, but also submitting feedback on the website, I take it then that those will also be shared as part of the presentation to mayor and city council. And that's probably going to be the most impactful part of the presentation.
Yes, we put a whole report together just on the public input. So we put how many people attended the meetings. We put all the comment forms that we get on the website, in person, on these online meetings. So all of that information gets delivered to mayor and council.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, there's a question here I think you should take. April would like to know, does Sun Tran make any other suggestions for alternative ways to save operational costs?
Oh, you're muted right now, Michael.
Wow, you guys missed some whimsical stuff there. No, I'm kidding. Well, you know, when we were first tasked with this, we did put together a list of various opportunities from a savings standpoint, cost saving standpoint. I believe it was 5 pages of information. Now, of that, the focus was really on routes and only, not other types of savings. Something tells me that once we're done with this, going through this process, that'll be a question that they'll ask us to probably get more into as far as how we can provide the savings. But yes, we have looked at over the years, we're always looking at ways to run more efficiently. It's not really cutting costs, because I like efficiency. I like the thought of advancing transit. I like the thought, we're all on the same page. We just need the money to do so. It's unfortunate that the city was in a position where I believe it was like a $17 million budget issue that they had to fix. And in that, they ended up level budgeting, which is great. We don't have to let drivers go. But one of those is potentially Route 5. Right. So here we are. And that's why it goes into a lot of comments that a lot of people have been saying up to this point. We need free fare and we need to keep the route. And of course, what's going to come up is, well, how do we pay for it? Right. Ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. So that's it.
Thank you. What else? I saw somebody's hands up. Oh, there you go. Oh, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, one more question, piggybacking off of that. So as far as like, has there been conversations yet between Sun Tran and PCC, U of A, TUSD, as far as the educational institutions partnering and sponsoring to help with funding for public transit?
Davida, you can jump in, but I will say it has been in discussion. So that's not something that's new to us. We are not letting that go. That was a suggestion some time ago that we are sort of keeping in the background, but ultimately we won't make the decision on that. But yes, that is something we are definitely looking at.
Ian, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, you covered that pretty well. Yeah, sorry. I was just going to jump in and say that, yeah, have been having those conversations. They are ongoing. They're at a higher level right now, from what I understand. So we hope to have more information soon. We are looking potentially at further partnership agreements, though. We do have those with TMC set up right now, and I think we've had them with Raytheon in the past. So those are a good suggestion, and we're aware of those.
And Ian is a part of the DTM, the Department of Transportation and Mobility, with the city of Tucson. So just so you know, we do have some city staff on here as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Right. Is there anything else in the chat that you wanted to bring up, Davida?
No, I was scrolling through the different comments and trying to make sure we had captured answering just about all of them. Somebody did ask about West Campus. Most of the routes do arrive and depart with about 10 minutes of each other that all service Pima College West Campus. I do know that they're also timed with classes in most cases for the different blocks. But that was the only question that I saw that we hadn't answered.
Okay.
But we'll try to make sure if we find another one. But I do appreciate everybody's comments and appreciate you all joining us and being part of this conversation.
All right. Well, we have a couple minutes left, so if anybody wants to end the meeting for us, any last thoughts? All
Hello,
right. Oh,
my name
yes,
is
go ahead,
Donna.
Donna. Yes.
And like I said, as I hear a lot of people saying that they would like the bus to stay free, I would love for it to stay free. That would make my life more pleasant. But the reality is the taxes didn't pass. And so somehow we have to make up the lack of funds. So I definitely wanted to find it because having a car is a major expense. Being able to have a bus that is convenient walking or equally available throughout the entire bus routes is a big issue for myself and my family. My family don't live with me anymore. They're in their own individual apartments. So is that even something that's on the table other than changing the 2 routes? I know there were routes affected already in the February schedule. Is that,
Are you asking if returning to fares is that what you're
is
asking?
that yeah, is that a better way to make the routes more equal, that some of the cities not ending at 7 o'clock at night so you can't go to Pima East? I had a student of mine who was trying to get from Pima East to Pima West because the classes they were taking on a science track was so difficult that they were missing classes because you just could not rely on the bus to get you there. And to reduce some of the routes would be extremely limiting for those students who may not be able to go to the U of A for finances or academic merit.
Davida, do you want to answer the fare question?
Well, I'm sorry, I do know that mayor and council are having further conversations about funding transit on May 20th. Fares are, we are working on a equity analysis as was requested, but that doesn't mean we're going back to fares. I do know that they are looking at different ways of funding transit, and fares are fortunately, unfortunately, in mayor and council's hands. And until they decide that we should go back to fares, we will remain fare free.
Thank you, Davida. Suzanne, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
I don't know if I unmuted.
You're good, Suzanne.
Okay, I'm just curious because of the TMC partnership, and I know in the past they've been very supportive of transit in general and spoken out in terms of how important it is to their employees and patients. Have they been part of this conversation at all since they're basically right at the end of the Route 5? Or not at the end, but along.
Yeah, along the Route 5. I'm not sure, Davida.
I don't know if they've been part of it yet. I am sure that we will be hearing from TMC soon.
Yeah. Let me follow up with that. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, again, why we're having this. I'm sure TMC will not be the only ones chiming in by the time that we're done, right? But again, that's what we need.
So you would expect to hear from them as opposed to reaching out to them. I guess that's what I was asking.
Well, I'd say the purpose of this would be, yes, we'd be looking to hear from them. But
Okay.
I will tell you that once we're done with these, we have no problem reaching out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Like we said, everything will be on the website tomorrow. We can see the live recording of this. Please continue to send us your comments. And thank you everyone for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.